I'm going to tell you something. Something others have only guessed at.
Do wizards go to the dentist or not? Today, we're looking at some of the most confusing details of life in the wizarding world. What students do before and after Hogwarts isn't so clear. There are also a shocking amount of gaps in knowledge of Muggle life.
Said it was Hogwarts business, very secret.
We have seen a lot in the wizarding world. Broken bones literally being fixed by magic, people apparating from anywhere. So why isn't there any magic spell that exists that can help fix his eyesight?
That's better, isn't it?
Gillyweed gave Harry literal gills so he could breathe underwater. Yet there's no spell, plant, or magical object that can improve Harry's eyesight.
Your eyesight really is awful.
Wizards, for whatever reason, are often quite clueless about what happens in the Muggle world.
What exactly is the function of a rubber duck?
Oh.
But where does the magic world stand on dentistry? When Hermione mentions her parents are dentists in the Muggle world,
they attend to people's teeth.
Fascinating. And is that considered a dangerous profession?
Slughorn and his Slug Club seem very confused by the idea. Alright, so witches and wizards don't need dentists. Except in the Weasley's house, there is a clock with all the family members' faces on it with places that they could be listed. One place these witches and wizards could potentially be is, you guessed it, the dentist.
Although, one boy, Robbie Fenwick, did bite my father once.
In the first film, the new Hogwarts students are surprised by the sorting hat, which doesn't make that much sense since it's been such a long-standing tradition. Why are so many unaware of this major moment? There are loads of families who've attended Hogwarts. Surely a parent or sibling could mention the major moment to future Hogwarts students.
You can choose Gryffindor. The sorting hat takes your choice into account.
Really?
The third-floor corridor at Hogwarts may have been locked, but anyone using the Alohomora charm could access it easily. One would think they would put a bit more effort into the security system.
Tell them Hogwarts is no longer safe.
Students who go to Hogwarts have to head to platform 9 3/4 in central London to hop on the train to Scotland. For the students from Scotland, going to the trouble of traveling to London just to catch the train back seems pretty nonsensical.
Do you have any idea how serious this is?
Part of the tragedy of Voldemort taking James and Lily Potter's lives is that the two of them were so young, just 21. However, every time we see them, they look more like they are in their 30s or 40s.
We never left.
You'll stay with me.
Until the end.
Hogwarts is consistently called an extremely safe place, but as we've learned over the course of the movies, Hogwarts is a very hazardous place for young people to be living and learning in. Half the time, the professors are the ones causing the danger to students.
Why is it always me?
Punishment involving sending someone to the Forbidden Forest alone is definitely not something we can imagine any school getting away with. How a student didn't fall off or somehow get injured on the wild stairs is beyond us. The students also interact with incredibly powerful creatures, including hippogriffs, not even close to being very safe.
It's killed me! It's killed me!
On top of all of that, there's the fact that a massive battle, including the death of Voldemort, all takes place on Hogwarts grounds.
Scared, Harry?
A little.
We all love watching a brilliant Quidditch match, but there are some questions when it comes to how exactly the scoring works. It seems strange that the points jump from 10 for scoring a goal to 150 for catching the snitch. The seeker, of course, requires a lot of skills, but a chaser would have to be unbelievably talented to stand a chance at winning if the opposing team catches the snitch.
I want to take potions. There's Quidditch trials coming up. I need to practice.
Remember when Ron told Dobby where to find Bill's house? It may seem like nothing, but Ron wasn't the secret keeper.
This is Scabbers, by the way. Pathetic, isn't he?
Scabbers, the Weasley household rat. At least until he revealed himself to be Peter Pettigrew. There are a few issues here. Why exactly did Scabbers decide to live with the wizarding family for a full 12 years? Not to mention the fact that Ron held and cared for this rat for years, only to discover he was in fact a full-grown man with a dark and troubled past. The fact that this gets glossed over so quickly is kinda crazy, especially considering how big a part Wormtail ended up playing in the story. If we were Ron, we definitely would not have been okay with this creepy bit of information.
Haven't I been a good friend, a good pet? You won't let them give me to the Dementors, will you? I was your rat!
There's also a mystery around the fact that Fred and George never noticed Pettigrew's name on the Marauders map. Scabbers was in Ron's dorm with him all the time, so it seems like someone should have noticed.
Accio!
The summoning charm is practical, simple, and so often useful, but the fact that it doesn't get taught until 4th year is suspicious, especially considering how advanced the students would be at that point. The simple spell that doesn't seem to be on anyone's radar until the 4th film.
Now, 3 of the founders coexisted quite harmoniously. 1 did not.
The amount of competition between all the houses at Hogwarts doesn't seem like the healthiest approach to building a community at the school. Slytherin in particular suffers being an unpopular house among the other students. But if they are so bad, why did no one try to change that? With such a terrible reputation, it feels like someone could have done something to make the disliked house a little better. The in-school rivalries feel a bit too intense.
Shut up, Malfoy.
Considering the dark times that were approaching, it was weird that Dumbledore didn't prepare the students better. He may have asked Snape to give Harry lessons in occlumency, but he definitely could have hired better teachers for defense against the dark arts, or at least create a new supplementary lesson to ensure the safety of the students during the war.
Do you really think there's going to be a war, Sirius?
Hermione is a brilliant witch. There's no denying that. However, the choice that Hogwarts made to give her a time turner so she could take more classes seems ludicrous. The girl was only 13 years old and held an insane amount of power, all just to take some extra classes.
When in doubt, I find retracing my steps to be a wise place to begin. Good luck.
For those like Hermione, who grew up in the Muggle world and presumably went to Muggle school, there seems to be very few questions about her past life. It's odd that young Hermione would just drop her life completely and disappear. Sure, boarding school could be used as a cover for Hogwarts, but it doesn't make sense that Hermione doesn't talk about her life before and no one asks.
Sirius? What are you doing here?
Answering your letter.
We've seen amazing methods of communication, from Sirius Black appearing in a fire to a two-way mirror. Yet to send a message to someone, a paper letter is shipped via owl. It's a pretty old-school way to communicate and highly inefficient. Owls are great, but they can take some time.
Harry Potter!
Come on, Harry.
It was against the rules for Harry to compete, but in this case, rules didn't matter. Realistically, the simple solution would have been just to follow the rules and not have Harry compete.
Mr. Potter has no choice.
After Hogwarts, it feels as though there aren't many options in terms of jobs. How do they make money in the wizarding world? We know the Ministry of Magic, St. Mungo's, Hogwarts, Quidditch, or a musical career for those talented enough, but aside from these very limited options, there aren't really many careers. It feels like their economy just wouldn't make any sense.
At least no one on the Gryffindor team had to buy their way in.
Of all the people to duel Bellatrix over the course of the movies, it's a bit perplexing that Molly Weasley is the one to take her down. Yes, her family is in danger and Bellatrix has been awful, but it does feel out of character to have the Weasley mother whip out an unforgivable curse so quickly. There are a couple of tools used in the wizarding world that seem quite inefficient. We're talking Quills and Remembralls. Sure, maybe the Quills are for the sake of holding up tradition, but the fact that they don't have a place for ink or magically fill up again doesn't make much sense for efficiency. As for Remembralls, yes, they may be able to remind a person they've forgotten something, but as we saw with Neville, it doesn't help to remember what one has forgotten. We love to look back on the magic and wonderful world created in the Harry Potter series, even if it wasn't the most logical place. What other details in the series didn't make sense?